Thank you so much for joining us this morning as we continue our Education Power Breakfast series. I'm really excited this morning because we have a very special guest, someone who has an extremely important job. You know, when you think about the work that ABNY is doing, working with the mayor, working with the governor, to set the stage and really create an environment to attract and grow industry in New York City. And as I think about the work that we're doing with nonprofits and corporations, to really play our part in building a stronger pipeline for workforce opportunities that really make sure that we are addressing the challenges in this new economy to ensure that we really have an inclusive economy as the city grows. I can't help but underscore the importance of the foundation of learning here in New York City, and that's New York City public schools, right? When we think about the entry point for most of New York City's workforce pipeline, that's New York City's public schools. You know, I have the pleasure of serving on a panel with Chancellor Banks, and, you know, we are just working on one really small step to make sure that New York City's public transportation continues to thrive. But when DOE sat and talked about sort of all the different transportation options for school children, right, like the school fares, and how complicated that one piece of the system was, it really made me think how difficult his job is, right? As we think about how the city needs to move out of this pandemic, get our children back on track, there are so many intersection obstacles, and I have no mic, no, it's okay, intersection of issues that play a role in making sure that happens. But before I call Stephen up to introduce the school's chancellor, I'd like to acknowledge the few of the elected officials and dignitaries who are in the room. I'd like to acknowledge a state assembly member, and please hold your applause until the end. I'd like to acknowledge Assembly Member Deborah Glick, New York State Assembly Member David Weprin. We have former City Council Member Danique Miller. We have our beloved ABNY board member and CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez. We have Dr. Luis Reyes from the Board of Regents, and we have Lester Young also from the Board of Regents. So if everyone could give them a round of applause, that would be amazing. So, Chancellor Banks, last month we had CUNY Chancellor, fellow Felix Matos Rodriguez, as our Power Breakfast speaker. And, you know, as a CUNY alum, I left the event with some CUNY swag. So I'm just saying, I'm a proud product of New York City Public Schools, went to IS 59, went to Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School, right, Performing Arts. I'm just saying, I don't know if there's some DOE swag somewhere, but I would love to, you know, get some. But anyway, without further ado, I'd like to ask ABNY's chairman, Stephen Rubenstein, to the stage.
Thank you, Melva. Morning, everybody. So with the school year underway, we could not have a more appropriate person to speak to us, our school's chancellor, David Banks. Now at ABNY, we care deeply about education, and not simply because our schools train what will be the future leaders, innovators, and workforce of our city. It's actually something deeper than that. We believe in moral civic obligation, and there is no deeper moral civic obligation than teaching our kids. We owe that to our parents, right? We owe that to the kids. You really cannot be a great city, I believe, without doing a great job in education. Thank you. DOE is the single biggest piece of our city budget. We spend more on a child here than anywhere in the country. On top of that, we have some of the smartest, most dedicated and talented teachers, principals, and administrators that you could have anywhere in the world. And what we need to do and what we owe to our kids is making sure that all those inputs create the best possible outputs for them. So I want to say, like, you can feel that obligation when you talk to the mayor, and you can really feel that obligation when you talk to the chancellor. He is amazing. He is a man with a mission. He is passionate for this. He did not need this job. He had been successful elsewhere, and he has come to this to do things that are essential for our city. A little bit about him. He is a product of our public schools, a graduate of PS 161 in Brooklyn and Hillcrest High School in Queens. He is the founding principal of the Eagle Academy for Young Men in the Bronx, a highly successful charter school serving young men of color that's grown into a regional network and a national model. As his CEO, the schools have had a graduation rate of nearly 90%, which is fantastic. So what's the secret sauce? What was the secret to success? In a 2018 opinion piece he wrote with Hillary Clinton, he talked about creating an environment where young men feel physically and emotionally safe, where they can take the armor off, a place where they're loved and nurtured, pushed, but not feared. By the way, that is the kind of nuance and appreciation that we need applied across the breadth of our system. And since taking the reins of DOE, Chancellor Banks has introduced new strategies to help students both inside and outside the classroom. One, he pulled more than 110,000 students into Summer Rising, an academic program in city schools that gives any kid who wants one a summer camp experience that excites them. Two, he launched an apprenticeship program to give 3,000 students their first paid jobs in tech, finance, and business, leveraging partnerships with places like JPMorgan Chase and Amazon. Three, he launched the city's first ever comprehensive program to screen and support every student with dyslexia so kids don't struggle for years without the help they deserve. The list is much longer, but you did not come here to hear me. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Chancellor.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. And Melva, thank you so much for the invitation to join you here this morning. To all the corporate, nonprofit, labor, health, cultural, educational, and government leaders who are here today, thank you for taking some time out of your very, very busy schedules to come and just hear a word about what we're planning and what we're already engaging and doing at New York City Public Schools. But before I go any further, I also want to acknowledge my team that is here from our senior leadership team. If they would all just kind of stand up, please. Just remain standing for a moment, guys. Remain standing for a moment. We got Dan Weisberg, who is our first Deputy Chancellor, Carolyn Quintana, who is the Deputy Chancellor for Teaching and Learning, Dr. Kara Ahmed, if you guys would wave so people know who you are in case they want to talk to you when we're done. Dr. Kara Ahmed, who is the Deputy for Early Childhood Education. Kenita Lloyd, who's the Deputy Chancellor for Family and Community Engagement and External Affairs. And Jade, who I'm going to come back to you in just a little bit, who's really the chief of all of our career pathways work. I want to thank all of you all for taking the time coming out here today as well. So it's interesting. Eric Adams had predicted that he was going to be the mayor long before he became the mayor. And I've known him for over 30 years. And he said to me years ago, if I ever get to be mayor, you're going to be my chancellor. To which my response was, absolutely not. I had no interest in becoming the chancellor. I really didn't. I think if you've been a principal in the New York City Public Schools and you've done a good job, you will always hear from your own school community, you should be chancellor one day. So it's not unique to me, but he was very familiar with the work and the particular work that we had done at Eagle Academy. And I got to make a slight correction, Stephen, on your introduction. You referred to the Eagle Academy as charter schools. They were not charter schools. They are not charter schools. They are traditional public schools that have a complete focus on how we uplift and transform the lives of young men of color. And it's interesting because we're always referred to as charter schools. Right, Donald? There's Donald Ruff, who is my successor at the Eagle Academy, and he's leading the work of the Eagle Academy Foundation now. Thank you, Donald. And it was always so interesting because people talked about us as a network of charters. I said, we're not charters. But people thought we were charter because we were doing innovative things. We had a longer school day. We had parent meetings on Saturdays. The kids were in school on Saturdays. We were doing all kinds of programming in the summer. The young men wore uniforms. And I think people just associated that somehow, well, you must be a charter school. And what we were very intentional. When I say we, it's not just me. I was the face of Eagle. I was not the founder. The founders are the 100 Black Men organization. It's the organization that created the entity and then created the Eagle Academy Foundation that I headed, and then we put a school in every borough and one in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm very, very proud of the work that we did, but it's important to note we were intentional around making them within the traditional public school system. We had nothing against charters, but we wanted to show that at the end of the day, you could actually begin to transform the system from within. I don't believe that we can charter our way out of this educational morass that we found ourselves in. The charters have a role, and a very important role to play. But at the end of the day, most kids are going to go to traditional public schools. And if we don't figure out how to be innovative and breathe new life into those schools, we're just going to play around on the margins with this work. And I didn't come here to play around on this. I came here to try to do a real job. It's been a whirlwind from the time that I came in January. I mean, from day one, and people have said this is the hardest job in America, but I love it. I love it, and I have a passion for it, and I feel like all of my life experiences and my career experiences have brought me to this place at this time to try to make an ultimate difference. And I'm going to do that together with the team that we brought here. Several years ago, a good friend of mine, Bill Lewis, who's some of you in the room I'm sure know Bill, he's at Lazard, he said to me, if you look at young people from 3K all the way through graduation, we spend in the New York City public schools about $350,000 per student. So he said, so as an investment banker, I asked the question, what's the return on investment? Now, we know the private schools spend even more than that. But it's a hefty price tag, and it's larger than most public school systems around the country. What should we expect back for a $350,000 investment in one particular child? And I would suggest to you that we have been off track for quite some time. We have had a focus on standardized exams. They are important, but they're not everything. And our schools have been so focused on just trying to meet the mark on standardized exams that we've lost our way in terms of what real teaching and a learning experience is really supposed to be about. A very comprehensive learning experience. I met several folks already this morning in different programs. The arts are critically important. Critically important. They nourish the soul. But it's hard to measure that on a standardized exam. And so in many schools, they've gotten rid of the arts because they're not judged on the arts. I think we've lost our way. Civic engagement. Several of the elected officials who were pointed out here today, who I will tell you that most of our kids, including our kids in high schools, if I said to you right now, tell me what the Attorney General does. Do you know the difference between the state Attorney General, the federal Attorney General, Patrick, the local district attorney? Do you even understand how all of those roles function and the role that they play in your life? Most young people that we graduate have no clue. They have no idea what the local city council person does. They might hazard a decent guess, but they're not intimately knowledgeable about how government actually works. The sad reality is that if I gave a test to a lot of people in here in this room and said, you can't leave until you pass this test on civic engagement, Some of you be here all night. And it's unfortunate. You remember years ago when Jay Leno would do his walk down Hollywood Boulevard and he just randomly stopped people and asked them basic questions about U.S. history? And they came up with the most outrageous answers. And we all got a good laugh out of it. But here's the part that's not funny. Those are our traditional public school, high school graduates who we produce, who know very little about a lot of things. They don't know how government works. They don't know how money is made in this country. And they don't know about personal finance. There's just so many things that we're not doing. That's why when I harken back to what Bill said, what's the return on investment? What should young people know and be able to do? And I suggest that our mission at New York City Public Schools is that we're going to graduate every student on a pathway to a rewarding career, long-term economic security, and equipped to be a positive force for change. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Our rallying cry at the start of our administration has been bright starts and bold futures. I want you to remember that. That's our theme. If anybody said, what did the Chancellor talk about today? He talked about bright starts and bold futures. There's a guy who hangs out at the front of Tweed, the courthouse where my office is. He's been there for many years before I arrived. For 10 years, he's been standing out every day in front, and he holds up a sign. And the sign says, if we would just teach the kids to read. And on my second day, I saw him out there, and I went up to him, and I said, I completely agree with you. He said, it would solve all your problems. You spend so much money trying to correct issues that if you got it right from the very beginning, you'd be in much better shape. Bill Gunlock, he used to be an educator in Ohio. And he said, and by the way, I've been out here for 10 years. You're the first chancellor that's ever come over and even said a word to me. It's telling, right? So our focus for Bright Starts is about teaching our children how to read. Think about that. Foundational. If the New York City Department of Education is not charged with anything else, it should be charged with ensuring that every child learns to read. And certainly on grade level and no later than the 3rd grade. Because all the research tells us that if you don't learn to read on grade level by the 3rd grade, you're fighting an uphill battle the rest of the way. In 2022, only 35.8% of black students and 36.8% of Latinx students, and only 12.7% of multilingual learners scored at proficiency on the ELA exam. And yet we have a system that is filled with really smart, dedicated people, hardworking people who mean well. I think we've given them the wrong tools. New York City used to produce young people who could read, in spite of the poverty challenges that we have in various neighborhoods around the city. They may not have ultimately had great opportunities, that's another part of the equation, but they learned to read. About 25 to 30 years ago, we began to get away from the approach that actually worked. And we shifted into something called balanced literacy, whole language approach, which is an approach that is less about sounding out words and more about using context to learn words and their meaning. And I will tell you that the results are in. And balanced literacy has clearly not shown strong enough results, particularly for students of color. And no group of students is doing as well as they should be. We need to work to ensure that every child can read no later than 3rd grade. And in order for us to do that, this administration is taking an approach to return to the phonetic approach to the teaching of reading. We are going back to basics, and we're going to ensure that every single child, no later than the 3rd grade, is going to have that foundational core that they really need. And I'm thrilled that under the leadership of Deputy Chancellor Quintana, that all schools with low literacy rates will have coaches to ensure implementation of this new curriculum. We're also making sure that we identify students who have barriers to reading, like dyslexia. Stephen, thank you so much for mentioning that. You know, our mayor was dyslexic, and, you know, he wasn't identified until much later in life. We have a lot of our students who are in our schools right now who have suffered from dyslexia and other reading challenges for many, many years. And we've not identified it, and even when we've identified it, we haven't put in the proper interventions, because those are resources that you have to ensure that the schools are getting to make that happen. All of our teachers in kindergarten through the 12th grade will participate in a 2-hour introductory training on identifying students with dyslexia. So we're going to do better at this core instruction, and that includes math. Math is also a gateway, but if you don't solidify that reading core, it makes it even challenging for you to do the math the right way. So we want to make sure that all of our students feel the connection, and this is the bold futures. After we establish that reading core, that bright start, here's the bold futures that we're talking about. A young person goes all the way through our system, and then they ask the question, now what? For far too many of them, they come out and they graduate, and we give them that diploma, and we pat them on the back, and we salute them, and they don't have the requisite skills that they need to go and be successful in college or career. So we need to reimagine our high schools, and that's what we're in the process of doing now. And the connection that we make to life after high school for all of our kids. I want you to think about this for just a moment. In 2009, almost 80,000 kids started the 9th grade. 4 years later, we only graduated 67% of those students. 6 years later, if you look at a 6-year measurement out for college graduation, we only graduated 18,000 of the original 80,000 kids. Now think about that. 80,000 started as a cohort in the 9th grade. 10 years out, only 18,000 of those students actually graduated with a degree. We have a lot of work to do. And not everybody is going to go to college. And we're not preparing them with the requisite skills that they need to take their rightful place in society, to have an opportunity to get a real job, good paying job, something that'll put them on the track to the middle class, Kyle, and beyond. At the very least, to get them off mommy's payroll. So we have a lot of work that we have to do. So we have to do a better job of connecting to the 21st century economy. And I will tell you that for far too many of our teachers, they have no idea what the 21st century economy even looks like. Think about this. The average teacher graduated from college, loves kids, goes back into the schools, and works within the 4 walls of the schools for most of their career. They have no idea what it means to work in an investment banking firm. They don't know what it looks like in Microsoft or Google. They don't even know what it looks like in any of the trades workplaces. They work in isolation. And the sad reality is that in far too many of our schools, I could bring you there today. And if you close your eyes, it might as well be 1975. Except there's a smart board in the front of the room. We still do a lot of what we've always done. Because education, and these are smart people, it's lacked a level of leadership that sees beyond the 4 walls of the schools. Where folks have to understand deeply that schools are part of communities. Communities are part of cities and states. There's a connection. Schools, folks who work in schools are very parochial. You know, my building, my kids, as though there's this little world unto itself. We have to work to ensure that they see themselves as part of a global village in an economy that is changing at a rapid pace. And we've not prepared our teachers. We talk about our students. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I'm going to tell you, a foundational piece here is how are we preparing the adults who are standing in the classroom in front of our kids so that they understand what the world of work actually looks like. Because if they don't, they can't reinforce the apprenticeship, the internship, the connection that we may, in fact, make with the business community. So let me just say this, as it relates to our kids themselves, central to reimagining our kids' academic experience is a new initiative and a set of commitments to students and families that we're calling Student Pathways to Economic Security. We're focused on putting our students on the path to rewarding careers and long-term economic security. I visited Hillcrest High School recently, right, Jade? And that's my alma mater, the class of 1980. Loved my time at Hillcrest. Met a young lady there who, because she was part of the nursing program in that school, it just opened her mind up to all kinds of other possibilities. And now she wants to go on to become a trauma surgeon, right? And she has a sense of what that really is because there's been a level of exposure that has been provided for her. I will tell everyone in this room, fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with our kids. I don't care what neighborhood they come from. They are brilliant. They're brilliant. That ought not even be a profound statement. Every one of our kids, they have varying degrees of talent. Some are accelerated readers, others are musically gifted. They've got all kinds of talents and gifts. Our job is to create an ecosystem that supports, nurtures, and develops those gifts so that they can ultimately achieve the hopes and dreams that they have. What I want to tell you, though, is that many of them are not able to kind of concretize those hopes and dreams because they've not had a level of exposure. If you've never met an investment banker, hard to dream about becoming an investment banker. You don't even know what that is. So to the degree that we partner with the broader business, healthcare, tech community to create greater levels of exposure for our young people, that's what we need to do. That is the North Star for this administration. Our plan will activate students' passions and their purpose by connecting them to careers in the real world beyond the classroom. In the wake of the pandemic, we've seen enrollment fall and chronic absences rise. In the last 5 years, folks, we've lost 120,000 families from the New York City Public Schools. 70,000 in just the last 2 years alone. We got real work to do. It's in part because schools aren't speaking to students' passion or purpose or connecting them to the real world. Career-connected learning will ensure that New York City Public Schools students graduate with real-world skills and experiences. It will give them a head start toward college and careers. We're going to achieve this by building new high school pathways aligned with good jobs that meet a set of standardized criteria, including college credit and industry credentials, 21st century skills, and real-world work experiences. Now, in order to do this, we'll need to partner with our business and civic community to meaningfully scale high-quality paid internships and apprenticeships. You heard me when I said paid, right? Through engaged and committed employer partnerships. Major partners already include JP Morgan Chase, Northwell Health, Accenture, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Robin Hood Foundation, and the New York Jobs CEO Council have already all signed on to this initiative. And already this year, we've announced 2 of these high-impact career-connected partnerships, the Career Ready and Modern Youth Apprenticeship, as well as Future Ready New York City. Both programs will ensure that over the course of the next 3 years, students citywide will be able to engage in and benefit from career readiness and college readiness preparation before they leave high school. The Career Ready and Modern Youth Apprenticeship is a historic expansion of career-connected learning opportunities for New York City Public School students. It's made possible through public-private partnership. It is our North Star. Future Ready NYC gives participating New York City Public High School students access to career exploration in high-growth fields, including healthcare, technology, business, and education. Our incredible partners at Northwell Health have already stepped up and committed to be an anchor employer for this work. They will be sponsoring internships for 12th graders across 4 high schools, providing feedback on program curriculum to ensure it meets industry demand, and will participate in in-person learning days to support student instruction. Just think about this. I've met with business leaders across the city. They're all saying they have a great need. They have to fill the ranks of their employees. They are looking for the people, but they need people who are qualified, who have the skills. They'll train them up further, but we've got to at least get them young people who are ready. And when we don't, they look all over the world to find them. And yet we're producing thousands of young people every year. We've got the ranks. We've got the population. We need to connect the dots with the need. So if we are able to develop young people who come out of high school with those requisite skills to meet the demands of the workforce, that's a beautiful marriage. That's what we're looking to do. That's what this administration is completely focused on. So what will this mean to the lives of our students? Next year, middle schoolers are going to have the chance to explore what careers could look like and start learning about the world of work as early as middle school. 10th graders in schools across the city will be in our New York City Career Launch Program, starting on pathways in high-growth fields. They'll be getting coursework connected to future careers, college credits, and paid internships, alongside support from advisors and teachers to help them launch into careers and life after high school. 11th graders will get apprenticeships, learning how to apply the coding skills that they've learned in school to the real world. And we'll start growing career and technical education programs. And of course, we know all this must be bolstered by our kids learning 21st century skills, including financial literacy. Currently, only some of our students across New York City get that level of exposure. We need each of our students to graduate ready to build a budget, to pay their taxes, and to be on their way to economic security. And that's why, learning from our experiences in CTE programs, we'll be piloting new programs to scale up financial and digital literacy as early as next year, with input from parents, students, educators, and other leaders along the way. And through this work this year, we expect that over 2,000 additional students will participate in work-based learning during this school year, paid internships and apprenticeships. We're going to build meaningful relationships with a coalition of more than 50 employers across the city to support work-based learning. And we just have a whole host of other things that we're looking to do over the next several years. We cannot do this work without you. So in closing, let me say this. We've met with the leaders in the business community, in the nonprofit world, the government agencies across New York City, who are all saying the same thing. We need the New York City public schools to produce young people who can do some stuff. Shouldn't be that much to ask for $350,000 per child in a school system that has a $38 billion budget. It's unacceptable that any child does not learn how to read. And we should all be outraged by it. I'm sure that you all feel the same way. But we need your help in order for us to do this. Helping students to get to that aha moment when they see the future that they want, when their dream comes into view right there in front of them, and then giving them everything that they need to take that aha moment and run with it. To college, to trade certification, to wherever they need to go to make that dream come true. A lot of those dreams can come true right in your own workplaces if you give young people an opportunity. It doesn't always happen simply in the classroom. So we're going to need these partnerships. We're going to need you. I want to acknowledge again, Jade, if you would just stand up one more time. Jade Grieve is the Chief of Student Pathways. She is leading this work for us at the Department of Education. So I need you to do more than just applaud her. I need you to see her. I need you to say, here's my card, my company. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to learn more. Please be sure to engage her in this process. This is what we are saying is our bold future. So it's bright starts and bold futures. What is it? People say, you went to ABNY today, you heard from the New York City Public Schools Chancellor. What did he talk about? Bright starts and bold futures. It's important that we get that theme resonates, really for all of us. It's the reason why we don't even refer to it anymore as the New York City Department of Education. We refer to it as the New York City Public Schools. It makes a difference. Language matters. It matters. A Department of Education is a bureaucracy. It's cold. It almost says, stay over there. But New York City Public Schools is welcoming. It's warm. It's engaging. That's what we're trying to do. Our Deputy Chancellor, Kenita Lloyd, she's the one that framed that we should get away from that language and we should use a more embracing language. We've got to come up with the kinds of programs that will bring young people and their families back into our schools. We want to return the New York City Public Schools to being a beacon of real light, of real opportunity for all of our young people. We want all of our families to rush to our doors to say, I want to get into my child into one of your schools because the change is happening in New York City. That's what we are committed to. We've got the A team that's working with me to make this happen. And I will simply say to each and every one of you, if you partner with us and you spread the word, the best is yet to come. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Can I stay here? Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. The Chancellor's agreed to take some questions. I got a few. I don't know if anybody in the crowd has them. All right, I'll start. About a week ago, you made an announcement about admissions, particularly 7th and 8th graders, certainly being, for high school and special programs, you kept the SAT in place, but you sort of augmented the system. I want to ask sort of a bigger question, like how do we ensure that exceptional kids from every community, from every background, have access to programs?
Yep.
And can you talk about how it did that and what else you might have planned in this area?
Thank you so much for that question, Stephen. So it's probably one of the first things that I had to deal with walking in to office and taking this position. It's an issue that is fraught across New York City. When I visit schools and communities around the city, there's a great breadth of opinion, to say the least, and ideas. And one of the things that we kept getting was this idea around needing more gifted and talented programs. Now, under the prior administration, they had made a decision that they were going to get rid of gifted and talented program. And yet what I was hearing from communities across the city was, don't get rid of them, expand them. Yeah, we know that not enough students of color were getting access. Well, put them in the neighborhoods where the students of color reside. That's what the parents were telling me. And so we made a decision to do that, and now we will have a gifted and talented program in every school district across New York City. And so that, on its face, is going to ensure a level of equity, and that's something that we focused on. From there, we then had the issues around middle school and high school's admissions. And again, it became this kind of philosophical debate. Should we just say all kids are deserving of just wherever they want to go, and so everything should just be a lottery? Or should it be more merit-based? And so you have a host of schools in New York City that are high choice schools, schools that have historically done really, really well and have become a magnet for high achieving students. And so we made a decision after hearing all the arguments that merit really should matter. And if you've got a child who works really hard and on the weekends and putting in the time, effort, and energy, and they get a 98 average, they should have a better opportunity to get into a high choice school than, the child you got to throw water on their face to get them to go to work, go to school every day. It doesn't mean all children have value. I'll tell you, I have 4 children myself. But if you have a child who you know is putting in that extra effort, they ought to have that opportunity, and we wanted to make sure that we did that. Our high school admissions decision says that merit actually matters, and that if you achieve at least a 90 average across any school in the city, you will then be placed into that lottery before the other students are. I'm comfortable with that decision, but what I also did was when I made the decision, I was surrounded by about 25 high school principals from around New York City who lead phenomenal schools, none of which are those selective schools. The high school that I went to, Hillcrest High School, it's a phenomenal school. Everybody graduates. They're all going to college. It's not even one of the schools that people talk about. And what I will tell you is that I have learned we have phenomenal schools across the city. We have phenomenal programs. What we have is a bad narrative. People don't realize the great things that are actually going on. So that's one of the things that Deputy Chancellor Lloyd has been charged with. We've got to change the narrative around our schools. The DOE has long played defense. We've not marketed the great things that are actually going on. So therefore, people don't think that we have good schools. They think they're just the handful of specialized schools, a couple of screen schools, and if you don't get into those, you're screwed. That's not true. And so we're going to be taking our time during this administration to spread the gospel of the good work that is actually going on. So not only does it help the people outside of our schools to realize that we've got many good programs, but internally, they will be learning and supporting and helping each other to get better. That's really important. Schools don't get better simply because we keep yelling that you need to get better. You have to show them how to get better. And that's what we're committed to doing.
Yes? Oh, sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If I may just preface my question by saying that I've heard Chancellor Banks articulate his passion for education for decades, childhood friends. And he has done it, and so much so that you've always wanted to participate and be a part of it, whether it was at Eagle, and we're at the Union, or whether we're at the City Council, and what's happening now. If you heard him this morning, everybody wants to be a part of this movement. And so I'm excited again. I'm more excited to hear you speak, and I hear him speak all the time. So,
Thank you,
proud
Dave.
of the work you're doing.
Appreciate it.
But what we've seen post-pandemic, what has been highlighted is the inequities in the education system. Not just services and service deliveries, but our target audience, particularly our young black men and our young men of color throughout the city. What particularly are you doing, and how does some of the programs that you've expressed this morning, how are we going to reach that target audience to change their lives?
I appreciate that, Danik. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your friendship and partnership over the years when you were in the City Council as well. So let me say, we've instituted a couple of different programs. First of all, we already had the My Brother's Keeper program that is doing some really wonderful and amazing work at the DOE. We just announced last week Project Pivot. We've identified 138 schools. These are schools that are struggling around the city, who need a level of support. We've made a multi-million-dollar commitment to provide a level of supports, but those supports come through community-based organizations that we've lined up. We've lined up 140 community-based organizations who are providing additional layers of support into those schools. Leadership training, additional tutoring, all kinds of special programming, mentoring, big brothers, big sisters. And these are folks who are primarily from those same neighborhoods, who are credible messengers, who I think will make a real difference in the lives of these young people. So we're making a big bet on them. It's just another example. But if you know me and you know my career, I'm a firm believer that all of our kids have tremendous talent, tremendous ability, and they need us to maintain high expectations and give them the supports that they need. I don't spend a lot of my time still talking about the pandemic and the old woe is me narrative. Because I tell young people, I come from a people who had to survive the Middle Passage. It's real talk. I come from a people who've had to survive slavery. I come from a people who fought, bled, died to help build this nation. And I look every day at these young people who are coming here as asylum seekers. Their families are putting their very lives on the line just for an opportunity to be in America. So, news alert, the pandemic is not the first time that our children have had to suffer a level of challenge and trauma. We must stay very focused. The civil rights movement was about equity and excellence. And so I want to make sure that we are providing a level of equity and access so that when these young people reach the top, we don't close the doors. But we don't lower the standard. Kyle, we don't lower the standard because we've been through some stuff. We've all been through some stuff. And it's been more challenging for some than others. But it's the cards that we were dealt. What we need are the supports. And I'm going to ensure that these schools, these kids, these communities get the supports that they need so that they can rise to the top. Because that's where they're supposed to go. And they all have the ability to do that. I don't believe in the soft bigotry of low expectations. Not at all. I'm not that kind of chancellor. But again, the hand clap is nice. I need your help. We need opportunity. You see? We can't say the chancellor, it was great. But what I'm saying to you is, Jade needs your help. We need corporate partnerships, sponsorships, opportunities. Because when you put young people in the rooms where it happens, you will see how they will get their aha moment. And then it transforms their entire life. And when you transform the life of even one young person, you can transform an entire family and then a community. And New York City needs that. If we are really going to be about the rebirth of this city, we have to invest in making sure that all of our young people are going to get what they need. New York City will not be able to get where it needs to go unless we are able to give New York City public schools the help that it needs.
Good morning, Chancellor Banks.
Good morning.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And I just want to say I am actually a graduate of Hillcrest High School
Come
as
on.
well.
Yes. That's
So
great.
I serve as a STEM provider. I've run an organization for the past 15 years, and I've been involved with the NYC STEM network through expanded schools. It's my understanding that now each school district is going to have a STEM liaison, right?
Yes.
The question I have for you is, how can we, as our STEM providers, right, that serve after-school programs in
Sure.
different capacities, how can we connect with those STEM liaisons?
Oh,
now?
absolutely, and I wish Desmond was here, but we've got our Deputy Chancellor Quintana. If you would just stand up for a moment as well as Deputy Chancellor Lloyd, would you both stand up for a moment? Because I need you to make connection with them, particularly on the STEM piece, please, with Deputy Chancellor Quintana. But there are others in the room who are from various community-based organizations who got very special programs. Please see any of our folks at our table. They can be extremely supportive. That is exactly what we need. The only way we're going to actually navigate our way towards success is through strategic partnership. Thank you, ladies. It is, I've got news for you, everybody. We're heading for some very tough economic times. You've all heard it. You've been attuned to it. The country, in fact, may be heading into a recession. We're all going to feel it. New York City schools will feel it. And I think that the way forward has to be through partnership. We are not going to be able to fund every program. But many of you have programs that you can bring that will be of service to our schools. And we're going to need every one of them. So I'd ask that you please find any of our deputies that you can connect with for support and connection. And I appreciate that. And us Hillcrest folks, we got to stick together. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one last question.
Thank
Margaret.
you. Good morning. I'm Margaret Della. I'm the CEO at Kingsbridge Heights Community Center in the Bronx.
Yes.
And so I'm very excited to hear about your vision. As a nonprofit leader, I can only imagine what you're leading. And in terms of nonprofits, you know, I feel like we've stepped into a vacuum, so to speak. Head Start, workforce, trauma supports, really trying to wrap around young people as they're moving through the DOE system.
Yeah.
And so from a position of partnerships, I wanted to learn a little bit more about how you are going to involve the nonprofit sector in this work. Not only are corporations critical, but the work that the nonprofits have done, maybe not only in a vacuum, but in the pandemic,
Yep.
and certainly just trying to meet the needs of the community. We're really excited about working with the DOE, but we don't want to compete. We
Right.
want to leverage, we want to partner, and we want to be resourceful collectively in this work together.
I appreciate that very much. And Deputy Chancellor Lloyd, this is what we have been talking about and trying to organize ourselves for. I was, just a year ago, I was sitting in the same seat as you as a not-for-profit leader, and would have asked the same question because what I found is that I would ask not-for-profit leaders, who do you deal with at the Chancellor's office? And many of them said, nobody. We work school to school. There's been no central organizing effort. And that's what we're working to put together now. And so people, again, it's another example of how folks have been working in silos. We're doing an audit. We're trying to figure out, there are hundreds and hundreds of not-for-profits that are working in our schools. But no one at the Chancellor's office who can give us the full list of who's there. We have no idea. We have some idea, but we don't have the full idea. So that's a process that we're engaging in now to figure out who's in all of our schools, and then how do we engage and deploy people in the ways that are most impactful. You may have a program that is phenomenal in the Bronx, and there's a school in Queens that would love your services. They don't know that you exist. So it's up to us to figure out how to connect all those dots, and that's a body of work that we're just really starting. I've had a number of other priorities since I walked in the door, but the dust is just starting to settle for me. And just one final aside as I take my seat. I salute all the not-for-profit leaders here, because I know what it means to lead a not-for-profit. Being the chancellor is a lot easier than heading a not-for-profit. Thank you so much, everybody.
Just a final note, I want to thank the Chancellor for being two things ABNY loves: intensely ambitious and relentlessly practical. We look forward to working with you.